Hello, I'm EP3O, and I'm known for creating a variety of Stellaris content, from guides, challenge videos, and getting all Stellaris achievements. Today I'm collaborating with Paradox Interactive to give you a complete overview of the new BioGenesis DLC. From what is included in the DLC, to my tips for using and getting the best out of all these new features. There's a lot to go through, so let's get into it. The first thing I want to show off and go over is the new meat ships, new biological ships added in BioGenesis. To use this, you need to select them before the start of the game. So we'll go to new game, create a new empire, and then we can go down to ship sets. You can now see there's two categories, biological and mechanical. Mechanical will be the corvettes, frigates, destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and titans, like we all know and love. They've not gone anywhere, but to use them, you have to select a mechanical ship set. However, if we select a biological ship set, the Shellcraft or Spinivore, which look incredible by the way, we get a bunch of new different ship classes that don't just look different. The biological ships, instead of costing alloys, will cost you mainly food and some alloys, changing up the playstyle massively, so you may want to invest in a lot of food civics, or food traits. When you start the game, it's going to be slightly different with the ships. We still get 3 ships as you can see here, but instead of 3 Corvette or size 1 ships, we get 2 Maulers and 1 Weaver. If we come over to fleet management and then ship design and click the Mauler or Weaver, we can actually see their design. This looks a bit confusing, but don't worry, it's not too bad. We have 3 different stages of development, as these ships have a unique mechanic where they will grow to the bigger stages. If we ignore that, it's essentially the same ship design. You can click the swarm and have 2 different selections, a point defense with a G slot or an S slot with a G slot. I much prefer the S slot, so we can pump out damage rather than avoiding it. But these weapons are different. For example, the combat mandibles are a G slot, but they have very small range, meaning your maulers will be right in the action, and this weapon will do 100% shield penetration, 50% armor damage, and 25% hull damage. However, because it's a G slot, it will do extra damage based on the target ship size, which essentially means the bigger they are, as in, for example, a starbase, it will do more damage. This ship will be your bread and butter early game, pairing with the Weaver, which looks a bit different. These P slots aren't point defense or flak, they're actually suppressors or support weapons. These support weapons will fire at your own ships in the same fleet to give them a different modifier. At the start of the game, we get the evasion and sublight speed, which is very good to pair with your maulers. The vector lock cannon will actually slow sublight speed and evasion chance on enemy ships, but I prefer to go on the all-out offense and buff our own ships. We also then get M slot weapons, which I like to go with 1 of each. So we've given ourselves all technology so we can get a better vibe of what is happening here. If we go back to the Mauler, you can see there are 3 stages. This does not mean we get all of these slots when we're an Elder. We just get whatever is in the downward category for each stage. Now these ships will grow up, but you need to give them the ability to do so. This new starting empty slot at the bottom will either let you just give you more bonuses to your ship, like more mandible weapon damage and armor damage, or more sublight speed and evasion, or you can grow quicker. Now if we did fit this accelerated growth gland, which you will unlock when you get the mature technology, the juveniles, which you can select the different sections by clicking on these arrows here. I'm not going to admit how long it took me to actually realize you could do that, but we can see on the juvenile swarm, we do have the accelerated growth gland. Then on the mature, we'll put the mature growth gland. That means the juvenile will grow up into the mature, which will then grow up into the elder. We can save these customizations, so anytime maulers grow up, they'll just slowly progress to these bigger ships. Now, what's the point in all this? Well, the juvenile is much cheaper than the elder. An elder is almost double the cost. So if you have spare time, and you're not going to war right now, you can use the cheap cost of a juvenile to then grow into an elder to save your materials. So if we come over and click on our military ships, and then we click on one of the juvenile ships, ship details, we can actually see the maturation cycle. We can see we're getting +2 every month, and it takes 60 to grow up. If we go to the juvenile Weaver, because we didn't attach the growth gland, they aren't growing up. There are other ways to increase the growth, such as the growth gland. Any ships docked here will get a +2 growth rate. You also get more shipyard capacity, which is pretty nice, but your dock ships will have 100% upkeep. So this is going to be very expensive, and you might as well have just built the bigger ones unless you're clever with it and only dock the growing ones here and have another starbase with the crew gestation chambers to reduce the dock upkeep. So we can grow that, and we can now see the juvenile will start growing because they're docked there, but also the mauler is growing by +4, which is even quicker. The Weavers also have a special organ you can attach in the bottom slot, which on own fleets will grow your progress rate by 2, but also give another 100% upkeep. So if you really want to grow quickly, you could attach that. So our juveniles are growing by +6, which is quite insane, but the upkeep on these ships has gone crazy. That's how you grow these ships. Now let's break down all the other new ones that we have and some tips. If you do unlock all the research to actually go to the Elder, I recommend going through and giving your juvenile and matures the growth glands, so they will just grow to this bigger ship. You want the best ships you can. They don't grow in ship size, so the naval cap efficiency for Elder Maulers are insane. In terms of ship build, I think Disruptors and the Mandibles are so good because you have shield penetration from the Mandibles, but then you also get Disruptor penetration from the Disruptors. So basically, you can just avoid shields. You know me, I love my speed, so we're going to advanced afterburners for the evasion and sublight speed, as we can get pretty crazy evasion and speed. We're then going to use this empty slot since we don't have to grow, and we're going to get sublight speed and evasion. Yep, you know where this is going. We're going to change our combat computer to Swarm, which increases evasion chance again. Now, annoyingly, we can't actually afford the energy cost of all of this, so I put a tier 1 afterburner on. We can't afford any shields because of the power, but this is kind of what I've been running. I would just advise you to go with a unified mission. If you're trying to run in with the G slots that we're doing, you probably want to be fast and you probably want to evade. So that's what we're trying to do here. So for the Weaver, there's a bunch of P slots like armor hardening, regen, confusion, so enemy ships just start firing at random stuff, negatives to the enemy, or bonus sublight speed, less fire rate, or bonus fire rate for us. Now, since the Maulers were trying to be fast and evasion, I'm going to adaptive tendrils so they actually shoot at ships to make them faster and more evasion chance. I tend to just stack as many as I can on. There are different levels of these. Then we'll give more ship weapon range and support weapon fire rates. Because it's a support ship, more support fire rate. And again, power is difficult, so you might have to change the designs a bit. In terms of the M slots, I try to go for 50-50 on the kinetic and laser weapons. If it's an odd number, I do more lasers, as shields are usually weaker than armor and hull. But again, you can customize this to whatever fleet. If I was just doing Mauler and Weaver, this is what it would be. But maybe I'd make a second Weaver where I'm just trying to buff up armor and hull. It really depends for different fleets. The Harbinger is your hangar equivalent. You just want basically hangars. Now you could run with G slots as well and have whirlwind missiles as well as fighters. This means you're penetrating all the shields. Ship design is basically just unify your ship to do one thing and be damn good at it. And the same is true the glands, etc. You can just go pretty crazy, maybe even make this artillery if you've got the whirlwind missiles. The Stinger is, mental. 4x slots on the last one. Don't mind if I do. I love my first strike battleships going with shield and armor penetration, so you just hit the hull and try and kill them. At this point, the L slots don't even really matter. You just want to first strike people down. You'll run artillery for more weapon range and fire rate, and then even more range. Have as many damn afterburners as you can so you can run away from them. Heck, you may even want to remove the L slots so you have the power slots to run them all. The Titans are not any different, and that is a quick rundown of the ships, which is crazy. The next new addition to the game I want to talk about is the Deep Space Citadel, a new defensive megastructure which you can unlock earlier in the game. The megastructures, it's essentially a killer structure like the orbital ring, the Dyson swarm, and the arc furnace, and the hyper relays. Don't forget the hyper relays. This Citadel has 3 different stages, with the third having an X slot. The Citadels do not have any other sections, so you are locked to this many B slots, L slots, and H slots, but as you upgrade, you get more, including the armor and shields. And don't forget the hull. These are insane bastions, and you can build them anywhere in the system. They're not locked to one place or above a planet. So yes, if you wanted to make a line of them here, you could. Now you are limited to a certain amount in a system. At the minute, I'm limited to 3 in the system because I have the Origin, which we'll cover later on, and I have unlocked Mega Engineering. You can get another capacity by going Eternal Vigilance, +1 capacity. And yeah, you can just make cursed choke points. Probably not the best idea to place them all there, as the other choke points are empty. The Deep Space Citadel will cost you 2,500 unity and 1,000 alloys. To then upgrade it to tier 2, you need 2,500 unity, 1,250 alloys, and 100 rare crystals. However, the cost can be reduced by traditions such as Unyielding, which lowers the starbase upgrade cost by 50%. These Citadels also get buffs that would buff starbases. You can see we're actually getting 58% more hull points. Turtle bolts can go crazy. Let's upgrade the Deep Space Citadel, and you can choose what design you're running with if you had multiple, and you can see even the look of it changes. You do get building slots, 1 at level 1 at tier 1, 2 at tier 2, and 3 at tier 3, as you can see. Now, in terms of the designs that I recommend, if you know what you're coming up against, you can customize the P slots to go all in, using flak for strike craft or point defense for missiles. However, if you don't know, it's best to just go basically 50-50. The same could be said for the L slots. However, I'd prioritize armor and hull damage, like the reasons before, and then hangars, you're using hangars. I do a mix of shield and armor for the same reason, and the A slot, you can pick yourself. If you don't have power, you need a generator. However, you could give yourself daily hull and armor regen, armor hardening, chance to hit. Really depends what you want to go for. Now, one of the cool things is there's an aura that you can select in these ship designs. We can do focus fire effect, which basically means the ships are more likely to target the Citadel rather than your fleets, starbase, or orbital rings. Or you can get the classic starbase auras, but then we have a few new custom ones, like lowering energy weapon damage, lowering kinetic weapon damage, lowering explosive damage, or lowering strike craft damage. Again, if you know what they're using, this could be good to counter, but for a more generalized approach, you probably want to go for an aura you don't have on your starbase, maybe ship fire rate. Or if you have all 4 starbases, you could make 4 different designs to lower 25% of all of these damage types. Now, as we upgrade, it just becomes bigger and with more slots. So just follow on from what I said from before. And then with the X slot, well, you've got hangars bypassing shields. You know I love a focus arc emitter. I'm putting a focus arc emitter. It goes through shield and armor. It could one-shot a few ships. I love them. We also have 3 new origins, and since we just talked about Deep Space Citadels, we also have Starlit Citadel. This is an origin that starts you with a tier 1 space citadel at the edge of a gravity well. There'll be a strange portal leading to an unknown system, as we can see here. You will get a Citadel uplink building, which gives you Skywatcher jobs, which will increase stability, spawn defense armies, and increase empire-wide naval capacity. They also improve the efficiency of Deep Space Citadels, starbases, and defense platforms. This is an insane building, and you can just play so turtle. It's great. You also get a couple of blockers that you're going to want to clear, and you also start with the Deep Space Citadel technology, which gives you the ability to build more of them and give you more system capacity. You also get megastructure build capacity +1, which is pretty huge, and Deep Space Citadel system capacity +1, which again, pretty huge. Off the start, you can put 3 in a system. In terms of what exactly the Skywatchers are buffing, you can see here the tracking and range go up for all types of orbital defensive stuff. It's crazy. In terms of what's in the wormhole, spoilers alert, it is a quite beefy station and some fleets. This station is using mass plasma cannons, so you're going to want to load up on shields, and they're also using mass armor. So take your anti-armor weapons. The biological ships that get sent at you as waves of enemies will come through this wormhole will have no shield, so you don't need to care about shields. As a tip, if you're just starting out with this origin, you won't have all technologies, but definitely use the point defense instead of flak because they do more armor damage and penetration, and also use lasers for the more armor and hull damage. The ships that get sent at you will have plasmas on the weavers, but the maulers will bypass shields, do more armor and hull damage, as well as more shield damage. So I'd have a mix of shield and armor. Once you do get the wormhole technology, you can go and take this system, and I would highly recommend turning this into a bastion choke point. You'll also get a planet, and there'll also be toxic worlds. There are no hyperlanes connecting it, but it will connect to other places in the galaxy. The next origin is Evolutionary Predators. This origin only lets you go down the new mutation ascension. We will get onto the Ascension overhaul soon. There's just so much else to cover. You also get the Malleable Genes trait. This trait will give you a bunch of traits depending on what they're working, from mining to tech, unity, alloys. It's pretty crazy. You also get the Adaptive Evolution situation, and the homeworld will start you with 10 progress to the adaptive evolution permanently. You also get an extra species trait pick. This origin is all about the situation, and as it ticks through and ends, you will get the ability to add a new trait to your hunter species. This is important because the Malleable Genes trait is actually very expensive with a 6 cost. So we had to take a bunch of -2s to actually afford it, so you might start off a bit weaker than normal. So as you can see, once the situation is finished, we get a bunch of options. These won't tell you what traits you get, but you can kind of work it out based on what it's saying. Like, our species needs to grow faster, we're going to get pop growth speed. Our leaders need every advantage. Our leaders will get buffed. We need to adapt to shifting climates. We might get habitability buffs. Or we can choose a random trait, or we can just say no and get research. Let's go for shifting climates. And as you can see at the top, we did just gain the adaptive trait. Now, don't worry, you don't just have to sit here and wait for this to tick up. You can choose different approaches, which means how you play will actually progress the situation further. As you can see by the genetic insights, we gain these by colonizing new planets, purging or keeping other species as livestock, keeping other species within our empire as slaves or better, employing alien leaders on our council, keeping vassals with the genetic type agreement, for megacorps, maintaining commercial pacts, or encountering alien life through events. And depending on our approach, it will buff certain aspects of this even more. So if we actually go to consume and we're not consuming anything, you can see our situation goes from 15 to 10, which is not great. Now, since you're going to have so many traits, I highly recommend playing with shared genetics, which is a new civic. For each positive species trait, you get 2.5 ship hull, but a bit more upkeep, and for each negative species trait, you get more fire rate and a bit more upkeep. This just can turn your ships into an insane, crazy mess, and paired with something like Devouring Swarm, you can just go eat pops, get traits, become stronger. You might be wondering what that genetic type thing was about. Well, in the bottom of your agreements for any vassalage, there's a DNA type. This term dictates whether or not the subject sends samples of their DNA to the Overlord. We will say yes to that. This raises it by 3, so you could just actually try and vassalize the entire galaxy. This origin has so many different playstyles you can do, and it's not just necessarily go murder and eat everyone. It's very interesting, because you could combine it with Megacorp as well, which means commercial packs. So you could go vassal and commercial pack build. Very cool. The third and final origin, again, a really cool one. These origins are so sick as they mix up the playstyle, is Wilderness. You can only go the Purity Ascension. Again, we will get onto that. You get the species trait Wilderness, which gives each pop 1000 workforce, but lowers habitability on anything that isn't a natural planet. All buildings, districts, and district specializations are replaced with unique, bespoke ones. Colony ships no longer exist for you, you terraform, and you get a new resource, biomass. You start with a size 18 homeworld with Scorched Plains. This origin is crazy. This is one of the runs I've been playing at year 44, and, well, it gets a bit wild. A pro tip, don't pair it with Nascent Stage. I got given it by the High Fallen Empire, which we will get onto Nascent Stage and the Fallen Empire later, but it really makes this origin a lot more challenging. Essentially, the bottleneck is the biomass resource. This is essentially just spare pop. As you can see here, only one lowly Steve is working these jobs and giving us a bunch of output. Any excess go to biomass or Steves, which then can be used to build things like the Cradle of Rebirth, which produces more Steves. You can also then build alloys, but districts do only cost minerals, which is pretty nice. My tip for this is try and build as many Cradle of Rebirths as you can early game, as the more pops you can get, the more buildings you can then build, which then your Steves can work very easily and just give you a bunch of resources. The biggest tip I can give you is pair this with Divided Attention, which reduces the empire size effect by -25. Paired with Collective Consciousness, which also reduces empire size effect by -25, but gives you a bunch of empire size from districts and planets. The high empire size is actually only giving me 50% of the negatives. Its origin's a bunch of fun. I highly recommend trying it. I also forgot to mention, you also can build 5 things at once. So getting biomass, food, minerals going so you can just spam build stuff. It is the way. Next up, of course, is Biomorphosis, the new overhaul to biological ascension. There's 3 different main tradition trees you can go down. That's Purity, Cloning, and Mutation. You do need 2 Ascension perks before you can go it. Once you select it, you will get the Biomorphosis situation. This situation has 3 stages, and you can select the approach you want to go down. This is very important, as Cloning, Mutation, and Purity are all modular. That's right, you can customize what will be in these trees. They do have a path that will always be there. So for cloning, you will always get evolutionary extrapolation, which converts medical workers into genomic researchers, allows the assimilation of pops into or out of hive mind, and gives you research speed to biology and less clone vat upkeep, which is very huge if you're going clone vats. Cloning also gives you an agenda. Clone vats will also produce more assembly, doubling, but will increase in upkeep, and you'll get the cloning tech. When you finish cloning, there will be cloning authorities. There's so many. I highly advise discovering them yourself. You can also build an extra clone vat on a planet, which is insane. You also get somatic synthesization, which gives you an army, perfect clone army. You can remove pop growth organic species traits. You can add advanced organic species traits, which you can add if you come over to your species, create template, and you can see the advanced ones will be in this blue. They'll be very powerful and could cost a lot, like fertile, natural machinist, vat grown, and robust. Now, for each part of the situation, I picked all cloning, so we get each third pick being cloning. Now, these can be applied to different paths, as we saw. You can get things like more organic growth per genomic researchers, which every single empire that takes biomorphosis will get. You have a planet limit of 1, and you may need to build it to actually progress down this situation, but these jobs can produce many different things, as you can see. It'll mainly be society of research and amenities, but you've seen the traditions can add different outputs to the genomic researchers. You can also get backups of your leaders, which is pretty insane, and you can increase job efficiency per medical building tier and reduce crime. There's a bunch of stuff that you get, and then you can actually change authorities. There's so many branching outputs, I literally can't cover them all in this video. You can see we just got backup cloning. However, as a general vibe, cloning will be all about you guessed it, cloning. Purity will make your species pure, giving you more leader lifespan, the ability to assimilate hives, modify positive and negative traits, and alter species. You will get different points and modification shenanigans on different paths, but the main 2 that you keep will all let you biologically change them in some way. Purity is all about getting more modification points, but less trait picks, so you can get big, strong traits. Now, if we select Purity and go all the way through it, focus on Purity, focus on Purity. You also get different modifiers, and there will be events that pop up if you do this the legit way. But you can see we are making our leaders insane. We also get more job efficiency and less empire size from pops, and then we can actually select purge policy options, which would give even xenophiles the ability to purge. They are not pure. Finishing tradition gives us purity authorities, again a bunch you can pick that completely change up how you're playing, and medical workers will now become genomic researchers, which is giving us growth speed, amenities, and organic pop growth multiplier. And finally, if we went down mutation, the base effect will give us better adaptation traits, which is basically the auto-modding traits that we saw earlier. We can assimilate pops into or out of hives, and pops of auto-modding traits are optimized per month. When we adopt mutation, we get the adaptive mutation species trait, which again picks the traits that they're working to give you more output. But then our habitability is replaced with mutagenic habitability. We get 50% everywhere, but we can reach 200% habitability. Every 10% above 100% will give us job efficiency, less housing usage, and less amenities usage. This is the habitability build. It's pretty nutty. On the left, we'll get job efficiency per medical building tiers and from genomic research facility, more leader experience gain and more lifespan. And then we'll gain access to bioadaptability, social pheromones, and limited regeneration. These are new traits that you can assign, and you can also get Leviathan traits, like Drake Seeded. You can produce alloys just passively, replace food upkeep with energy, and give you more minimum habitability, or polymelic. Pop growths just produce organic growth, like budding. And to show we can mix and match this, let's do 1 at purity. Let's focus next on cloning. Then let's focus on mutation. Because of this, we can't actually pick purity, but we could pick cloning or mutation. Let's go with cloning. Then you can see on the left, we actually have something that was given by purity, mutation, and cloning. It's insane. While progressing through biomorphosis, I would suggest saving your Unity so you can instantly go through and finish this tradition. I'm sure there'll be more advanced builds when people start breaking the game, but for now, enjoy the variety you can produce with a new biomorphosis ascension path. Next up is Behemoth Theory Crisis path. Yeah, you're gonna get a big old dragon. To unlock this, you will need 3 previous ascension perks, but once clicking, you will unlock the crisis path. There'll be 5 stages, and as you progress, you'll get more abilities like society research from food jobs. To level this up, you can build biological ships, destroy biological ships, kill space fauna, grow behemoth eggs, birth behemoths, and raid your behemoth. I found it was very, very strong to build cheap biological ships and just let them grow up like we did before. Now, the key to this crisis is, of course, the behemoth, which is a mega structure that will cost you a bit of food. This egg will be built around a stellar body. Once built, you then have to hatch it, which is even more food. But before you can do that, you need to get to crisis level 2. You'll get more growth progress to your ships, more food, but an upkeep of minerals, and you can hatch the egg. Once hatched, you'll get the brain-like trials. This will cost you society research and will allow you to progress to the next level of the crisis. Now with the dragon, you do have growth stages, as there are different classes of the behemoth. To grow them quicker, you need to consume bioships, space fauna, or pops during bombardment. So go and eat stuff. You do have the enrage command, and it will destroy anything. If I use it here, it's going to even attack us, and it will head to the nearest colony, which is my capital. If we do, however, kill it in combat, it will go back to our control. However, if someone else kills it, it does die. Once you get to level 4, you'll have new projects, like Mind Meld, where you need a class 3 behemoth, so you better get eating. There's then mutations, which give you 3 options, where you can give them different modifiers. Let's make them speedy. Now, once you've grown your behemoth and crystallized them to tier 4, you'll get the new situation, Growing Pains, and the King of Monsters. To win, you need to find and kill any other class 4 behemoths in the galaxy, complete the Growing Pains situation, and slay the Elder Void Spawn. Once you get the tier 4, the Void Spawn will spawn. They are indestructible until you finish Growing Pains, so don't try it. They have the high ground. This ship is insanely strong, and it has a modifier on it where it won't die, trust me. So to progress through Growing Pains, you need to grow. You will have a base of +1. If you switch to digestion, you'll get +2. Flight will let you go faster, and fight will give you more damage. And then your growth factor will add to it, and your empire size will take away. To increase your growth factor, you need to kill other behemoths, leviathans, or biological ships. You can eat habitable planets and eat pops. So I would recommend going and nomming on those damn planets. Just look at him go. Nom nom. It's gone forever. Now, each stage completed will give you a mutation. There are 3 different ones. Some are abilities that do random stuff like energy boost. Or you can just regen, become faster. The abilities will actually add to your hotbar here, which you can activate on cooldown. You can also activate these while in combat. It's insane. Then you can take the boss on. Dragon on dragon. Let's do the thermoclastic roar, which we can click here. Boost stuff, do everything. Kill it. And if you do lose, you do die. So don't lose. Next up are all 7 new civics. Crowdsourcing, where factions will produce research instead of unity. We love tech rushing. Then there's genetic identity, which gives society research per 100 bureaucrats. This means you combine the civic cybernetic creed and dimensional worship for no scientists run. Then you have civil education. Replace all enforcers with educators. Replace precinct house with state academy, where the state academy will let your civilians produce tech. It's time for a civilian only run. You then have the 3 new hive civics. Aerospace adaptation, which lets your biological ships go in orbit of friendly colonies, which when your biological ships are in orbit of friendly colonies, you will have 50% less upkeep. Friendly colonies with biological ships in orbit get increased build speed, amenities, clear blocker speed, and potentially job output, depending on the size. And when you're in orbit of hostile colonies, you have -85 ship upkeep. You can see here some of the modifiers. You then have familiar face. Envoys and officials take on physical forms of the empire they assign to, which means the trust required to perform diplomatic actions is reduced by 50%. You can become a good hive. Then there's shared genetics, which we looked at earlier, where you get more buffs to your ships depending on how many traits you have. There's also a machine civic Starwood network, which reduces starbase upkeep, increases home territory fire rate, and gives you more disengagement opportunities if you want to turtle as a machine. There's also body snatchers, which lets you start the game with a 1000 assimilated pops and the ability to assimilate organics into the hive mind. You also have access to the Prepare Invasion espionage mission, and you gain extra pops from the Smuggle Population espionage mission. Smuggle Population lets you steal pops from other empires, and Prepare Invasion is a new espionage mission where you can basically make the empire you're targeting rise up against them. There is, of course, the Hive Mind Fallen Empire. This is a unique Fallen Empire as it starts with 3 different hives. They'll start in a federation, so you can't pick on them and bully, but they all represent 3 different things: growth, war, and control. They'll act like a Fallen Empire, but interact with you and ask for favors, or change your pops' traits, or make you battle their ships, depending which one you talk to. They'll have different tasks, and if they do uprise, Unity may take control of the galactic community. There's also 16 new species traits, and these are phenotype species traits. This means they're limited to what portrait you pick, and for some examples, there's Shelled, that reduces pop housing usage and gives more habitability. There's even negatives like permeable skin. Habitability on worlds with a different climate category from our preference is -20%. You can also get rooted, which is extremely difficult to play with, which disables automatically resettlement, lowers pop growth from immigration, and has an increase in resettlement cost. The 4.0 changes, immigration is very important, but you could pick this later on just to get the -3 to your species so you can take even better traits, as you might not be doing much automatic resettlement once your empire is established. There's some cool ones like genetic memory, which increases habitability from colony age, which would go well with mutation. There's also egg laying, which if you have a surplus of food or minerals, you get 15% pop growth speed, which is a really unique way to play. Just make sure you have enough food or minerals. There's a bunch more traits that you can discover. There's also a whole host of new BioGenesis traits, Shellcraft City, Spineville City, Wilderness City, and 3 more rooms. There's also new music and 65 new events you can discover in the game. This is just scratching the surface of BioGenesis, and this video is already getting on. I highly recommend picking up this DLC. If you enjoyed this content, you should absolutely subscribe to the Stellaris channel. I've been EP Frio, and I'll see you around.